Hello everyone, you're welcome to this news hour on Equinoxe television. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories, 3 children perished in very disturbing circumstances in Bonaberi Dolefo subdivision. They are said to have been poisoned to death by their own mother, allegedly by their own mother, who also consumed the poisonous substance. She is under medical attention in a critical health situation. While Cameroonian authorities say there is a progressive return to normalcy in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, inhabitants of several parts of the 2 English-speaking regions continue deserting their villages. We will show you the deserted state of the Lebialem division in the southwest region in this newscast. Senegalese authorities have signed a peace deal with Casamance rebels who have been terrorizing the country since 1982. Those were our top stories. Thank you for joining us at this news hour. We begin in Bonaberi Dolefo subdivision, where 3 children have died in unclear circumstances. According to information from police sources and neighbors, the children are said to have been killed or poisoned to death by their own mother, who is also said to have consumed the same poisonous substance she gave to the children and is now under critical health condition in hospital. Annabella reports.
Shock and consternation at Bonambape, a locality in the Douala-4 area. 3 children aged 11, 9 and 3 of the same family have lost their lives after allegedly consuming a poisonous substance.
It's really a sad story, what I may say. I'm a driver for Barrister Akabum. It's only God will see this particular matter, what our particular mother of this particular house that have really done for us. I would like to make it clear that we have lost 3 children that she herself delivered. I'm crying because I will never see those children again. Barissa is also crying because we will never see those children again.
Nous sommes les voisins les plus proches. Et on a juste constaté qu'on a pris la dame. On a en train d'amener.
Some neighbors explained that they saw the lady being transported to the hospital and only later on heard cries from Barrister Akomum's Watson's compound. They rushed there to notice the children convulsing already.
Nous sommes donc venus, on a trouvé que les enfants étaient en train de convulser.
The youngest child was rushed to the nearest medical facility where she gave up the ghost.
On a voulu payer les premiers soins, alors là que le médecin dit que ça ne sert plus à rien puisque le bébé était déjà décédé.
The other 2 were transferred to the Lakentini hospital where they too died.
Donc c'est ce matin aussi qu'on a appris que les 2 autres sont décédés.
The locals around are still to come to terms with the sudden death of the 3 kids, despite all efforts to save their lives.
Donc ça nous a beaucoup touché, nous les voisins, parce qu'on a tout fait.
We are really touched because we gave all we had to save the lives of the kids, especially the younger one who died in my hands.
On a tout fait, mais ils sont décédés, surtout le plus petit, il est décédé entre mes mains.
We got information the kids lastly consumed bobolo plus granules. Only an autopsy can confirm if that is what led to their death.
C'est parce que le médecin a demandé même à la petite soeur de la femme ce que le bébé avait consommé. Bon, d'après ce qu'elle nous a dit, seulement les bâtons avec les arachides.
The children, the way the children put it for me, there is no one particular person that can say it clear.
Barrister Kabum's wife reportedly ate the same meal and is in a coma.
We want God to limit Mama so that Mama should come up. He will testify.
The 3 corpses have been deposited at the Bonasama Hospital mortuary.
An Immaculate Fogwe went finding out why the rate of suicide is increasing in the Republic of Cameroon. She spoke to a psychologist who said if nothing is done, if quick and appropriate actions are not taken by the competent authorities, the rate of suicide would triple in the country. Get to know why in this report.
According to the World Health Organization, 1 out of 100 deaths is due to suicide. Suicidal cases continue to rise across the Republic of Cameroon. Reports of a woman or man committing suicide or that of a student who failed an examination has become rampant within the past 2 years. Suicide has been termed the second cause of death across the world. Speaking to a psychologist, he says financial difficulties, a breakup or chronic pain are some of the major causes of suicide in the country. Some circumstances of life could cause one to commit suicide. Some people are unable to manage failure. With a bad approach, lots of them think only about suicide. Many people contemplating suicide are experiencing depression or hopelessness. To mitigate the risk of suicide, he urges victims to opt for regular mental checkup as soon as possible. Persons contemplating suicide need a lot of support from those around them. That is because not everyone is able to manage pain. People need to understand that there are low and high moments. Religion also has a role to play. Religious leaders, healthcare professionals, educators, politicians, friends, family members and colleagues all have a role to play in preventing suicide in the society.
Despite the unstable socio-political and security situation still prevailing across the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon, stricken by socio-political tensions for close to 6 years, today authorities continue upholding the point that there is a progressive return to normalcy in those regions. The Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Jenkut, and other members of the committee to follow up the implementation of recommendations of the major national dialogue say that the implementation of those recommendations is yielding fruits on the ground. And they were speaking during the fourth session of that committee that took place at the Prime Ministry in Yaoundé under the chairmanship of Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Jenkut, and the members of that committee were evaluating and assessing the distance covered so far in the implementation of recommendations of the 2019 major national dialogue, which came as a solution or as a meeting to find solutions to the socio-political and security tensions in the northwest and southwest regions of the country and other challenges in the country. And the Prime Minister says that things are progressive on the ground. Things are progressing on the ground with the implementation of the recommendations, notably the special status, the putting in place of the regional institutions, and the operational actions that are taken on the ground are yielding fruit in terms of a return to peace and normalcy in those crisis-stricken regions. Take a listen to the Prime Minister.
The session has been very fruitful. Not only in terms of the density of the recommendations that have come from the floor, but also in terms of the participation. For the first time, we had representatives from the diaspora who came, and they've been here and they've given us their impressions and their recommendations. We have had recommendations from the floor which are going to advance the cause of peace in these two regions. We've seen tremendous progress that has taken place. We have seen that the economies of these two regions is finally getting back to its 2016 level. However, there are a number of issues that still have to be dealt with. The big companies like the CDC, Pamol, Dawarati, they are back in business, but of course there are still a few challenges. And this meeting has helped to give a number of ideas which we shall put together and report to the head of state, who will therefore instruct on the way forward. But we believe that the way things are going, it is possible that between now and the end of the year, Cameroonians living in these two regions can finally have an end of year relatively safe with comfort in their homes. It is there's still a long way ahead, there's still a lot of work to be done, but we believe that the spirit is there. People are willing to see that this thing ends, and the head of state is determined to do all he can to ensure that peace returns to this region.
Some members of the diaspora also took part in that meeting of the committee to follow up the implementation of recommendations of the major national dialogue. And among the diasporans, Padia Sanga, civil society activists from Germany, and speaking to Smantikan Gabriel, he raised the point on the necessity for general amnesty, not only for those dropping their weapons in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, but for also for those in the diaspora who are piloting or said to be piloting what's happening in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. Take a listen to Padia Sanga.
You know, there are certain people who are afraid to come to Cameroon because they did certain things at the embassy. So if they can grant amnesty for people who have killed and cut heads, then they should grant amnesty for these people who were just manifesting in one way or the other. Okay. So that's one of the powerful messages that we of the diaspora have brought here in this meeting. Well, the special status in itself needs a content. That's what we are saying. And we have deliberated on what should be the content. We are not concerned about the nomenclature, especially those people who are at the whole front. So we are waiting for the content, and maybe it will get a content after the deliberations will have been made and the documents submitted to the person who's concerned. So we are hoping that the special status content this time around is going to be loaded.
While the authorities are saying there is a progressive return to peace and normalcy in the crisis-stricken regions of the Republic of Cameroon, inhabitants of several parts of the two regions continue deserting their villages. Coming up, Derek Jato shows us the deserted picture of the Lebialem division.
We are touching down in less than 5 minutes, and this is the picture of the Lebialem division from the sky. We are now just meters above the roofs of Menji, very close to the ground and very close to the realities of what Menji has become from when the Anglophone crisis escalated some 6 years ago. On the ground, the authorities too have seen that everything in the Lebialem division is getting bad and very fast. Divisional delegations and other institutions have not been operating for a very long time now. The separatist fighters concentrated their firepower here, and hundreds have been killed as the result. Recently, the self-styled Field Marshal of the Lebialem division, Oliver Lekeka, leader of the Red Dragon militia, was assassinated. But it seems Oliver did not only leave behind these damages, but also sympathizers, fear, and trauma. Lebialem is still empty, even after his death.
The city has become, the city of Menji, the headquarters of Lebialem division, has become a ghost town.
As we attempt to take pictures, we were cautioned, for everywhere is a potential front line, and many eyes might be watching at us. Seeing what he qualified as a very disturbing situation, Southwest Governor Bernardo Kaliabilai gave reasons why it is possible for the Lebialem people to stop the separatist activities in a day, if they desire.
Those separatists, the separatists of Lebialem, they are coming from Lebialem. They are not coming from Fako. They are not coming from Manu. They are son and daughter of Lebialem. So they are known. They are known by the leaders of Lebialem, traditional rulers, religious authorities, elite, the official elected. Let them come back and pull those their misguided brothers out of the bushes. 6 years after they have killed a whole generation.
Going to school, which is the future, is now history in the Lebialem division. The nation is losing.
6 years is the time for a child to go from class 1 to class 6, where he can obtain his first school living certificate. So can you imagine the number of illiterate people have created here because of what we don't know?
Over here, we saw a room now buried in the grass. Though the occupant did not take any property, But he or she must have been laden with a lot of emotions and bad memories. And as we fly back and out of Lebialem division, this division has very little to be desired apart from this natural endowment, these unique hills, when looked at from above, in a division that is today empty.
Thank you, Derek Jato, for that report. In the Menchum Division, Northwest Region of the Republic of Cameroon, the senior divisional officer has taken measures regulating the carrying and moving around with objects and prohibited the harmful the keeping of firearms by civilians across the division. The usual carrying and moving around with objects like knives, cutlasses, sticks, spears, or any other object subject to attacking fellow human beings, and now prohibited across the Menchum division. The ownership of firearms completely prohibited. Only authorized vigilante committee members are allowed to carry firearms or such weapons within their quarters, and farmers are also allowed to use sticks and cutlasses while going to their farms for cultivation or grazing, or to the cattle market for self-protection. Civilians illegally keeping firearms are urged to take them to the divisional office. The divisional officer or the senior divisional officer of the Lebialem, rather the Menchum division, wants that those who will violate this decision will be punished according to the law. All those keeping or illegally keeping firearms are urged to take them to the divisional offices across the Menchum division. And coming up, we take a look at the deplorable state of the Bamenda Womb Road.
The Bamenda Womb Road in the rainy season. Accessibility is hindered. Users even dispute the roads with cattle. On board his motorbike is the corpse of a woman denied to be transported by drivers in Bamenda to Womb.
So this Womb road, I don't calculate the way I put my money for motor go down for Womb. Where do they wait to enter motor go down for Womb? So now I don't put in for bikes so go down for Womb because the condition for the road will not be easy.
Actually, I deserve to help this my sister because it can make me cry. Say you don't go meet up motor for carry mama come down for Womb. You ask 180,000. Actually, he don't beg me, he don't give me 50,000. I deserve to help it because too much control for road. That's no long, it's a big clamp.
Even after her death, she is unable to find the rest that will only come after this hectic journey. The road users implore authorities to help render this Bamenda Womb roads passable and for the numerous checkpoints to be reduced.
At first, we began at 2 controls set up for this road, but now we go up to 12 control. Starting from Council Junction, carriage from Womb here, we'll get 12 control. So the one big government, semi-government struggle for help we fix the road and need to reduce some this control of the road. That's all one big government did.
And they really beg semi government look into this matter for Womb road. So So we dey really cry. So we no fit work for this place. So they no dey. See how we dey carry cups for motor, for bike. We will run tire and tire.
This is only an exemplary situation in Anglophone Cameroon and several other localities in the 8 French-speaking regions, calling on the Yaoundé Dons to wake up from slumber and serve the people faithfully.
That is the state of the Bamenda Womb Road in the northwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. It is one of the roads which are expected to be reconstructed within the framework of the implementation of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon. The minister delegate to the Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Clementine Ananga Messina, is no more. Family sources say she died earlier today in a hospital in Istanbul, Turkey. Her husband said Clementine Ananga Messina had been under intense medical care since last month. Now in news out of the Republic of Cameroon, Senegalese authorities have signed a peace deal with Casamance rebels who have been terrorizing the country since 1982. Malaglory has more.
The governing coalition in Senegal has lost its majority after Sunday's parliamentary elections. It won 82 seats out of 165 seats of the National Assembly. Smaller groups now own the 3 remaining seats. Still in Senegal, the country's government has signed a peace deal with rebels from southern province of Casamance. This, according to the people, will end a long-time conflict, a separatist insurgency led by the Movement of Democratic Forces of Casamance, MFDC, and which led to the death of thousands of people since 1982. An agreement which brought satisfaction to the country's president, Macky Sall, who went further to thank Umaru Sissoco Embalo, president of Guinea-Bissau, for mediating in the signing process.
And still in Senegal, the Electoral Commission in that country says that the governing coalition has lost its majority after Sunday's parliamentary elections. It won 82 seats of the National Assembly's 165, 2 more than the main opposition alliance. The 3 remaining seats went to smaller groups who now hold the balance of power in that country. And in Talking Point, ahead of the 2022 International Day for the Indigenous People, we're looking at the challenges that indigenous people are facing in the Republic of Cameroon. We're looking or focusing on the Bororo indigenous people in Cameroon. Meet our guest Aissatou Buba, the civil society leader and executive director of the Cameroon Indigenous Women Forum. She talked to the Inside. Aissatou Buba is our guest today. Speaking to the Inside, she elaborated on the challenges that indigenous people, particularly the Bororo indigenous people, are facing in the Republic of Cameroon, and she also talks about the possible solutions that government can provide to the plights of indigenous people in general. She talked to the Inside. For 10 years with the Cameroon Indigenous Women Forum.
According to the United Nations definition, they use 4 criteria to identify who are indigenous people, and these 4 criteria are they are marginalized and discriminated upon. They are self-identified as indigenous people. They live and they are attached to their lands and their territories. They hardly benefit from social amenities like schools and hospitals and so on. And it has been a very long struggle for indigenous people to be recognized. And for the past 25 years, indigenous people have been lobbying at the level of the United Nations to make sure that they are being identified. And this came along in 2007, where the United Nations adopted the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous People, which stipulates about 17 articles. And these articles are summarized as the right to self-determination, the right to live on their territories and control those territories, the right to have full government services, and the right also to manage their lands and their territories.
And most of these rights are trampled upon in many countries, including Cameroon. Tell us about this problem which is coming up again and again, the violation of the rights of indigenous people.
Yeah, actually it's a very big problem for the recognition of indigenous people. And I think it poses a lot of problems. If you are not recognized, then there is a big problem, because your rights will be violated. And this right ranges.
So the first problem is recognition.
Yes, recognition. They are not recognized as indigenous people. And secondly, we have the access to government services, like we are talking about health facilities, we are talking about education, we are talking about the right to use the land where they are using and even control the land. So it's a very big problem. They don't access these services because, you know, they are indigenous people. They are the Mbororo, they are pastoralists, they are living on top of the hills with their cattle, they are searching for greener pastures. We have the forest people who are the 4Bs, who are in the forest where they do hunting and gardening, and it is very difficult for them to have these government services. It becomes very difficult because they live in very enclave areas. And we have this issue of land ownership is a big problem, because most of the time you have this issue of land grabbing. You have issues of farmer-grazier conflict all the times, and it is a big problem, because most of these Bororo pastoralists they have lost their cattle, and you know, cattle is their wealth. That is their source of income.
Some of them have been killed.
Some of them have been killed, and some of them are even in court every day, and they have been spending a lot of money to make sure that they seek justice, and the justice is not even coming. So it is very, very difficult for them.
Right, we are talking particularly here about the Mbororo indigenous people who are in the northwest region, in the southwest also, in the far north, and almost everywhere around the country. What is so peculiar about this group of persons, apart from the fact that most of them are pastoralists?
Yeah, you know, the Mbororo indigenous people have been living in Cameroon since 1905 or so. So they migrated, and they have been living here in Cameroon and in major regions like the northwest, the west region, the Adamawa, the east region. And so we are saying that the indigenous people, the Moro people, they are living nearly in all the regions in Cameroon, and they mostly do this cattle rearing. That's their culture. That they are so attached to this culture. And you know, today with the issue of land, the space is limited. The population is increasing every day, and it becomes very difficult for them to live on top of the hill with their cattle. And most of them, they are even migrating to towns to do other jobs, like other businesses and so on. But I think as indigenous people, that's cattle rearing is our culture, and we don't want this culture to disappear. We want to continue rearing our cattle and drinking our milk. That's what makes us to be the indigenous pastoralists.
And that's quite difficult there because of what you just mentioned earlier, the issue of land that is not always available everywhere when they want to carry on with these agro-pastoral activities. And that's why we've been hearing of farmer-grazier conflicts in several parts of the northwest region, especially in the Ndonga-Mantum division, with deaths recorded in some of the cases.
Yeah, Mr. Babila, I would like to say here that this issue is found everywhere. It's not only in the Donga Mountain. We have this farmer-grazer conflict in all the regions where these indigenous people are found. You know, it's very difficult. We have the other non-indigenous people. They are doing their agriculture. So sometimes normally they come up on top of the hills, the grazing land where they do this farming, and then when the cattle they get into the farm, it's a big problem. So it's a day-to-day problem where these indigenous people are having with the non-indigenous people, and it has really affected them a lot. Like as I was saying, we have so many court cases today, and we have this issue of harassing them, because when there is a problem, there is they harass them, they extort huge sums of money from them, because maybe somebody wants to assist them in a court case and so on, and that's how they are violating their rights and so on. So it's a very big problem. I think that there is something needs to be done so that these indigenous people can continue practicing their culture that they have inherited.
What is preventing many of them from obtaining justice in cases where they find themselves in court because of some problems and so on? Is it because of the bad judicial system, or is it because of other problems, education and things like that?
Yeah, firstly we have the ignorance. You know, you have to know the law before you know where to go and seek the justice. So that's is the first problem. The second one is also issue of surrounding corruption issues. As I said, they always extort huge sums money from them when they have those court cases, and sometimes when they begin the court cases, they finally abandon them. And there is the issue of also the language. You know, my parents in the village, they have never gone to school. And to go to the court, you need to express yourself in English or in French, and the judicial that in charge, they cannot understand your native language, and so it's a very big barrier also for them.
And normally there should be translators who should facilitate.
Actually, they were supposed to be translators so that they will be able to understand, and why not also involve other indigenous youth who have practiced the law, who are even lawyers, so that they can assist them when they go to the court, or train other Cameroonians who can assist people like that, because they are having a problem. That's why they are indigenous people, so that when they will come to the court, there will be somebody sitting somewhere to listen to you, to assist you, to tell you how you can even write your application and so on.
Right, even though they may not be well educated, they may not know how to read or write in French or English, that does not make them less of Cameroonians. They are still Cameroonians, and those rights must be respected. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so now, at the level of the state, at the level of policy, there seems to be a problem also at that level in terms of protection of these persons, protection of this group of persons.
Yeah, actually I was saying that we need a legal framework, a law or a policy that will really highlight the right of these indigenous people. Because if we don't have a law that is protecting these indigenous people, everything that we will be saying will be turning around the table, and the real issues, the real problem of indigenous people will not be solved. So I think if we can have a law that is protecting these indigenous people, it will go a long way to solve many of these problems that are coming up.
A law at the national level.
At the
international level, there are already some legal instruments.
Yeah, we have the United Nations Declaration of the Right of Indigenous People that we were happy that Cameroon was a part of the country that voted in favor of it, and through the Ministry of Social Affairs, where they have recognized these indigenous people, and I think they are doing also a lot in order to promote the right of these indigenous people. But we think that we need a law that will protect the right of indigenous people.
What more should be done to enhance the protection and the well-being of the Boro indigenous people?
Yeah, actually we think that we should think of bringing these social amenities nearer to these communities. We are talking about education. these indigenous people, as I said, they are living far away. They are cut off from other communities, and so to benefit from this school is very difficult. We have these young children who have to travel for very long distances to access the nearest school. So if they can make these schools accessible to these indigenous children, I think it will go a long way to help them to continue to go to school. And secondly, we have these health facilities. They are very far. If you are sick, maybe before you reach the hospital, I think you will not be able to reach the hospital. You will die along the way because of the distance. And so we feel that if they can bring this health facility nearer to this community, it will really help them. And we are also thinking about ameliorating also the land laws in Cameroon, for example, because the land law in Cameroon doesn't favor indigenous people, because when you have to obtain land certificate and so on, the law is very complicated, and it has not taken the consideration of the specificity of indigenous people. And so we think that if we want to continue to protect indigenous people, we have to do a lot to ameliorate the land laws in Cameroon, so that it will facilitate them to have also access to have land certificates, so that they will be able to protect their land and use the land and also control the land.
The procedures of land ownership should be facilitated, so that the people, what exactly should be done to make it easier for the people to obtain own land?
Yeah, I think first of all the grazing land should be demarcated, because there is a problem. We don't know where grazing land starts. We don't know where farming land ends. So there's a problem around that place. So I think if they can do a demarcation,
that's where there's always a conflict.
Yeah.
Because the farmers will come into the grazing land, and then the grazing land, the whole thing becomes
complicated. So if they can demarcate it and say this is a grazing land, and that you know that as a grazier, this is my area, I don't have to encroach into the other the farming area, I think it will go a long way. And also the procedure, it should be made in a way that it should be simple, so that everybody can apply. Like for example, there are so many documents that they request, and the procedure is very long. You can apply for a land certificate, and then maybe you wait for it maybe for 10 years and so on, and you know it's very difficult. So if they can simplify it in a way that these indigenous people too, as citizens of Cameroon, that they can apply and then obtain this land certificate, it will be easier. It will be easier for them.
Taking into consideration some of the factors that may not necessarily be in favor of these persons or this group of persons, especially those who might not have gone to school to a certain extent.
Exactly, like for example, the information to obtain the documents and so on. It has to be. They have to simplify it so that indigenous people too can can understand it, because it is so complicated. I mean, you have so many documents, and then the procedure, you have to move from one office to the other, and then sometimes the file will even get missing along the way from one office to the other, and the procedure is very cumbersome. If you are not
and definitely very costly.
Yeah, and very costly. So if you are not determined, I think you will just abandon it along the way. So I think if the government can really put it in a more simple way, so that the lay person, the indigenous people, can also have access to land certificate.
All right. Now, talking about the agro-pastoral, the agro-pastoral activities, what do you think can be done to improve the income-generating capacity of these activities, in order to enable the agro-pastoralist to be much more viable financially and be able to brave some challenges and achieve their goals?
Yeah, first of all, I think we need the land. We are in need of the land, because if you don't have the land, you cannot practice your your pastoralism. So you need the land. The government should allocate, as I've said, do demarcation of this grazing land. If you know that this is your portion, I think you will be able to practice your pastoralism on it without any problem. And then secondly, the government should come in also to assist these indigenous people. We have this, we have seen it in other countries, like in Nigeria, where they plant this Guatemala grass, where you can do you can do the ranching at the same space. You have everything there. You have water where the cattle can drink. You have the grass, and then you say that you don't even have you don't even need to be moving around the place. Say I'm going for transhumance and yes. So if the government can assist these indigenous people so that they will be able to have all these facilities like the Guatemala
able
grass,
to establish a ranch, for example.
Exactly. I think it will go a long way to reduce most of this farmer-grazier conflict.
Aissatu Buba, leader of the Cameroon Indigenous Women Forum, speaking to The Insight. That's it for today. Have a nice weekend in the company of our programs. Goodbye.